All right, so you've heard me mention courage a few times. Why is courage so important? Courage is so important because all too often we stop ourselves from doing many things in our life because of one thing, and one thing only: fear. It's sad, but true. Imagine all the incredible ideas that have never been created because of fear. All the inventions, lives half-lived, potential soulmates that never met, books that were never written, dreams which later became regrets, all suffocated by fear. The fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of being judged. Here, I'll save you the suspense. You might fail, you might be rejected, and you might be judged. The question is, will you choose to let fear rule your life, or will you use fear as a tool, an opportunity to grow, a chance to feel alive? Will you choose to learn from your failures and rejections and realize that your successes are in fact built on failures? That when you are judged by someone else for speaking up, for dressing differently, for simply being you, that those judgments are likely coming from their own insecurities and their desire, just like you, to be accepted for who they truly are. Everyone has fear. Whether it's starting a new project or introducing yourself to someone new, fear will always be there. Yet some people with courage choose to act despite of their fear, and some people don't. In week 43, I worked with a motivational speaker. One afternoon, we went to lunch with his friend named Lee. He's 50 years old. He's the president of a company that does $20 million in sales annually and employs 300 people. He owns 2 beautiful homes, expensive cars, he has a nice family, a loving wife. In modern day terms of success, this guy's made it. Over lunch, we talked about 1-week job, why I started it, what jobs I'd done. The conversation got Lee really reflecting on his own life and the choices that he's made. After a brief silence, Lee was gazing out the window, deep in thought, and then he suddenly said, "I wish I could just be a coach." And then he got really excited. He's like the excitement and build up to big game day, morning practices, interaction with the kids. And then he trailed off. And with a sense of hope in his eyes, he said, "Someday." It's not that he hates his job, but he'd never say he loves it either. It's simply fine. Here's a guy who has worked his entire life to get to where he is today. He's president of a big company, making a bunch of money. People would look at him and say, "Wow, look at him, he's successful." And yet with a hint of regret, he says, "I wish I could just be a coach." So I asked Lee, what would you change if you could do it all over again? Say you were just coming out of school. And he said, "If I could do it all over again, I wish I would have acted without the fear of what others thought." I wish I would have acted without the fear of what others thought. How often do you base your choices on fear? How often do you base your choices on what other people think? If you're like me, it's how I used to make the majority of my decisions. I wasn't asking myself, well, what's going to make me happy and what do I want? Instead, I thought, what are my friends doing? What would make my parents proud? What job title will allow me to confidently answer that question? What do you do for a living? The reality is that many people like Lee make these huge, life-changing decisions based on fear and based on what other people think. So, what's at risk if you continue to make choices based on fear throughout your life? What's at risk is your very life. I once sat next to a woman on a plane named Linda. She was coming back from visiting her 84-year-old mother. Linda described how she sat next to her mom, holding her hand, but that she didn't know how to comfort her. Linda's mother, approaching the end of her life, feels that she never pursued her dreams. And now she's terrified of dying. We often associate fear with being a risk. Well, I ask you, what is the greater risk? Avoiding some discomfort and being vulnerable, the possibility of it not working out, the possibility of failing and learning from it, or to be at the end of your life with regret? There is such a thing as too late. Here's the deal. Fear is not something that you need to overcome or conquer, as you might have heard. Fear is a good thing. It's a reminder that you are alive, that you care, that you and the decisions you make are important. It's an opportunity to grow and an indication that you're on the right track. Acknowledge the fear, and then acknowledge that your voice, your truth, your work, your life is far more important than your fear. The reason it's uncomfortable is because it pushes you up against the walls of your comfort zone, and this creates tension. Now, there's two ways that you can alleviate this tension. You can shrink to make room, or you can choose to see fear as a doorway. Open it up, expand your comfort zone, learn, and live more fully. As Oscar Wilde said, to live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people exist, and that is all. I'd like to leave you with a question that may help when fear presents itself. It's a question that someone asked me during my year, and it's a question that you can keep coming back to throughout your life that will help you block out the noise and help you stay true to yourself. What would you do if you weren't afraid? This is your life. Make it spectacular.